In this video, we will talk about all the light actors in Unreal, covering all the general properties of lights. Let's go to the scene level. This is a simple scene made with starter content geometries like a small house. Inside, we have few geometries like tables and chairs, and outside, few rocks and bushes. Now let's click on the create icon from the top left and go down and select lights. There are 5 different type of light actors in Unreal. We have directional light, point light, spotlight, rect light, and skylight. Most of these lights have their own use cases, like directional lights and skylight, which are exterior lighting scenarios. Spotlight will be used for lamps and candle lights, and the rect light will be used for interior and the exterior light. Now let's drag a point light. Now we can see that an emitting light from one point source. The emission is in all directions. This light will be ideal for creating a single source lights like lamps and candles. Now let's go to the details panel. The topmost we have the transform properties like any other actor like location, rotation and scale properties. Next to that we have mobility settings. We will cover this bit later. For now, to avoid this error in the viewport, we will switch the mobility settings from static to movable. And next to that we have the intensity parameter, which is just showing how bright the light source is. And if you see, the current units are in CD, which means candela. Just below that we have a list of intensity units applicable in Unreal Engine. If I change it into unitless, immediately the intensity slider changes from 0 to 100,000. Alternatively, if you go for lumens, you can consider that 1100 to 1500 lumens is equivalent to 100 volt. Now let's roll back the default unit candela. Next to that we have a light color, and we can select any hue from this color wheel and adjust the required saturations and values. We also have an alternative options in temperature level control. Scroll down and turn on use temperature below the light temperature in Kelvin scale. In Unreal, the temperature is ranges from 1700 to 12,000 Kelvin. Higher values of Kelvin scale represent cooler color, whereas warmer hue indicates a lower color temperature. Candlelight have a color temperature of around 1800 to 2200 Kelvin, while a daylight typically ranges from 5500 to 6500 Kelvin. And most of these fluorescent lights ranges above 7500 Kelvin. As per the mode of lighting, you can select the right temperature from the temperature chart. Now let's move on the attenuation radius. Currently, the attenuation radius is large, which means larger attenuation radius needs more performance cost as opposed to light with a smaller attenuation radius. If you bring down the attenuation, the light decay may not be physically accurate, but very much important for performance. Now let's duplicate 5 lights in a row. And if you see the first light got disabled, there is no more light calculation from that particular light source. Because in Unreal project settings, we have only 4 movable lights. The reason behind this is that the 4 light with an attenuation radius of 1000 will be enough to fill the area with the current exposure. If I zoom out the scene and move one of the lights away from the first light attenuation range, and then immediately the first light get activated. And if you see the light 1 and 5 are no longer overlapping each other. Again, if you want to more light in a row, we should adjust the attenuation radius. Basically, the attenuation radius should be have some limits. The point here is to create only the required lights for the scene and not for any excess lights. Now let's see the source radius. The physical size of a light source, which affect softness of the shadows, means that a larger source radius creates softer shadows. while a smaller source radius creates much more sharper shadows. And if you increase the source radius, the reflection of the source is being increased, meaning that the physical size of the light is increased, right? But there is no changes in the shadows yet. For that, I'm going to turn on distant field shadow options in the settings. Now the shadow immediately turned from sharp to smooth. And next to that, we have a soft source radius. Let's move this light close to this mirror. Remember the source radius we set before, and we set the size of our light source. So this is what we get for soft shadows. Now we are going to set the soft source radius that is going to be visible in reflection. We can set a smooth gradient over there in order to get much more detailed smooth reflection of light. And if you want to change the point light shape to a tube light, we may need to play with the source radius and source length together. Let's move this light to very close to this wall and make very similar like in a tube light. Effect world will be simply turn on and off the lights. You will also turn on and off the light shadows contributions if you want. We can also crank up the indirect illumination by increasing these values. Let's move this light inside this room. Now let's increase the indirect intensity. We can see that the areas under the shadows got more indirect light contributions. And we are seeing things much more clearly now, right? With the indirect lighting, we can even turn this up higher than the slider values if you want. And if you see this slider is capping out a number, you might be able to adjust by clicking it and enter a higher custom value for your own. Next to that, there is no volumetric contribution in our scene. So you can skip this parameter for now. Now we have an advanced lighting tab. We have a plenty of options to explore, but we are covering only the most important options right now. One of the major options is like specular scale, which will be help to control, the amount of light specularity from lights. In some case, we don't really need to display the specific contributions of light in the scene. In that case, you can simply kill or reduce the overall influence. And next to that, we have the light channels, and we will cover this topic in upcoming session. And that's all about the point light, and see you in the next video.